Hello everyone, this is Korosh Erfani and today is Sunday, March 8th, 2026. We are going to talk about what has happened in the 10th day of the war that Israel and the United States are waging against Iran. We have heard a lot of things during the last days regarding the end of the Iranian regime, the end of Iranian military force. The Iranian army is obliterated, Iranian navy is completely wiped out, and many other elements like that in the and the sayings of President Trump and also other people. For example, the Israeli army speakers. They are all talking about the reduction of the Iranian force for launching missiles, drones, and a lot of things like that. More than 3,000 points have been struck, and of course, theoretically, there is no more Iranian regime, Iranian army, Iranian force, nothing. But regardless of that, we have a few breaking news or news for just these 10 days. Let me tell you just a few elements of the last 24 hours. The first thing that Iran announced that there is now a supreme leader, a new one. Khamenei has been killed, another Khamenei has been born. Now we have a new Khamenei as supreme leader, which means that we are where we have been before war, and there is no change, right? And the son of Ali Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, is now elected as the supreme leader, and nothing changed in the structure of regime. So there is no regime collapse, there is no regime change, and just a continuation of the political power in Iran. So that was the first fact today, which was denying completely what Israel and essentially President Trump have been saying for days. Another one that it was Israel and that got struck with several waves of ballistic missiles, several waves, and each wave, dozens or much more drones, missiles. Ben Gurion airport had been hit completely. And in the region we had again other news like, for example, U.S. bases in Kuwait, including the helicopter base of Al-Udari, had been completely struck by the Iranians. Fuel depots, command buildings. So all of this also happened in the last few hours. Another attacks on U.S. naval bases and infrastructure, and also in the oil-related sites of Bahrain Petroleum Company. So Bahrain had been almost crushed today with the explosion in the desalination plant over there. So in Saudi Arabia, we had two deaths with the new strikes coming from Iran. In Dubai, we got the missile swarms, including Marina building and other areas as well. Also in Qatar, we got the new ballistic missiles. So all of these are showing that in the opposite of what the Americans and the Israelis are telling us regarding the reduction of the capability of the Iranian regime, and there are much more missiles and drones coming to Israel and also to the Arab countries of the Persian Gulf. At the same time, we got the news according to which there are new attacks by Hezbollah against Israel, the drone attack, missile attacks, and it looks like that it can continue. Let me show you how Haaretz is reporting that. IDF officials admit military struggling to intercept Hezbollah drones from Lebanon, right? So you remember they said that we finished Hezbollah is done, Hezbollah is over. 1 year ceasefire during which we had almost on a daily basis bombing Hezbollah bases, and at the end of the day, now the very mighty Israeli army has a lot of difficulty to intercept drone and missiles coming from Hezbollah from Lebanon. All right, all of these are telling us that nothing is going on as Israel and United States wanted, right, or at least announced, right? There is a complete opposite point of what they said, right, contrasted with reality. What they said has been completely denied. So we have also the Iraqi militia groups that started to attack the US bases over there, and now we are sure that some US controlled airport had been under fire of the Iraqi groups, and also the groups that had been supported by CIA and Mossad have been harmed by the Iraqi Shia militia groups. So if we have all the cases that I enumerated in just one day, it means that we have a complete denial of the claims of the United States and Israel regarding what is going on during this war for the 10th day. Now, several people are asking, but with all that's happening in Israel, Tel Aviv has lost completely power right now, is in dark. Many shelters have been hit. Many other installations, like the power facility in Haifa, had been hit. And Israelis started to talk about casualties, and more than 1,000 people injured, and several hundreds, of course, in bad conditions. Of course, there are a few deaths as well. So all of these are indicating that the things are not really going in the desired and pre-planned direction by the Zionists and by the United States. The result is that they have to do something. They have to think about a solution. They cannot continue like this. They cannot continue because the consequences of this war start really to put pressure on the economy. Right now that I am recording this program, there are more and more news regarding what's going on in the stock markets and financial markets of the South Asia and East Asia. For example, we have the news that says that right now oil jumped above 100 a barrel, and that was a few hours ago. Right now that I am recording this program, it's a matter of $113 to $114 per barrel, right? And as you can see, the Japan's Nikkei stock average slid 6.7%. You know, even some sources are talking about 7%. Same thing for the South Korea. Also, as you can see here, is a matter of 8% a few minutes ago, and right now it could be even more. So all of these are indicating that in a few hours, with the opening of the stock markets in Europe, you are going to have maybe the same thing over there. And of course, tomorrow morning, when the New York stock market opens, we can have, you remember in the previous video, we mentioned that, the Bloody Monday, right? And there are more and more efforts behind the scene to control that, but it's not sure that they can really control it. So that's why the economic consequences with the oil price above $100 and the gas price with between $1 to $2 compared to just 1 week ago, now we have a serious matter on the hands of the Trump administration. So these are some aspects that I wanted to present you as introduction. All right, these are the introductory elements, just to put the context, in which context we are talking about. But the core of the problem is a kind of pre-failure, right? Pre-failure that is coming up, and we can be sure that if it continues, it will result in how it is said, catastrophe, disaster. So, is there any solution that Trump administration can avoid this disaster somehow? This is the core of my discussion. I would like to discuss with you the different scenarios according to which there would be a getaway. There would be an exit point for this impasse, to this deadlock, standstill of the Trump administration, and of course, on the other hand, Israel. What they can do. Let's imagine the different scenario, okay? And the first one that I would like to share with you is the idea that, what about stopping war? What about coming and announcing that we got the total victory? Something like the famous speech of George W. Bush on the aircraft carrier in 2003, after a few months of the invasion of Iraq. He said that the mission is accomplished, it's done, it's finished, it's over, right? So we saw that after this date, after this famous speech on the aircraft carrier, we got something like more than 10 years, right? 10 years, 1 million casualties among the civilian, Iraqi civilian, and also 2,000-3,000 American soldiers killed, something between 10 to 20,000 people, military people injured. So, what about making such a speech for Trump, announcing that we crushed the Iranian regime, We killed the leader, and we got the total victory. We, what was this famous word? Oh, obliterated. Obliterated everything. Obliterated Iran, obliterated Iranian army, Iranian IRGC, Iranian Navy, and everything. We obliterate everything. So, finish. It's finished. It's accomplished and it's done. And we are victorious. What about that? So it's easy to make a speech, of course, but what's difficult is the consequences of what you have done, not what you have said, but you have done. In order to understand it, we can see that nothing has been done, practically, except damaging, the civil infrastructure of Iran, along with some military targets. Nothing fundamentally, structurally has been done. For example, Iranian regime change, right? There was no regime change. Khamenei has been killed, and Khamenei has been born and replaced, and the son replaced the father, and that's all. Now there is a possibility for continuation of the Iranian regime, at least because the guy has just 54 years, I think, and that would be at the leadership of Iran for, let's say, 40 years, right? So the next time that it would be a question of replacement of Iranian supreme leader, that would be in, 2066, something like that. So nothing changed. And not only this, but also we know that there is no victory. We know that Iran defeated two of the most powerful armies on the earth, American armies, Israeli armies, and that's why it would be the question of Iran turning into a superpower, a regional superpower, which means that in the Persian Gulf, and let's say almost without exaggeration, in the Middle East, the superpower won't be Israel, that spent billions and billions of the American taxpayer dollars to become the first power, the superpower of Middle East, but Iran will be so, right? And this means that not only they didn't get any tangible result, but there is a complete opposite, contradictory result for what they did. They made Iran the superpower of Middle East. Can you imagine that? And of course, for doing so, they spent billions of dollars, right? Because right now it's a matter of several billions of dollars as expenditures of this adventure, and they lost a lot of money. Imagine that just for the last week, it was a matter of $3.5 trillion in the stock market and financial markets of the United States. We are not talking about the global one. If you add all the financial loss that we have had in the region, you can talk about hundreds of billions of dollars for Saudi Arabia, for Qatar, for United Emirates Arabs, and also for Bahrain, for Kuwait. The blockage of sending anything as oil, gas, and lack of income. So just to give you an idea about what kind of damages we are talking about, some people are estimating that United States has been doing the installation in the in the Persian Gulf, in the Middle East, for almost 50 years, half a century. That's for time. And for money, they are talking about an estimation of $1 trillion. $1 trillion that the Americans spent in order to be almost in all the countries in the region, having several bases, military bases, in all the Persian Gulf countries, Arab countries, in the southern Persian Gulf. And can you imagine that during just 10 days, it had been reduced almost to nothing, because all the bases have been struck, damaged, emptied, abandoned. The last case is just today with the American fleeing the Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia paid billions and billions of dollars in order to have the protection of the American, and right now the Americans are fleeing their country. So, total loss. With such a huge negative and disastrous record, if Trump accepts to put an end to war right now, it's going to have a backlash for sure. Financially, economically, politically, diplomatically, loss of credibility. All the Arab countries will be reviewing their relationships with the United States, and they will ask maybe to be refunded, or at least they will stop to invest in the United States, to buy the United States weaponries, and so on and so on. So the loss, the cost and loss could be huge for the United States. And we are talking about the global market that had been damaged because of the lack of 20% of the energy global market. And everybody knows that in order to repair everything and to retake the normal course of sending energy, sending oil, gas, it would be a matter of weeks, even months. And can you imagine for months and months having the oil price above $100? And of course, the gas here, for example, in the United States, between $1 to $3 above the period of pre-war. So that's why when you think about all these negative consequences of this first option, this first scenario, which is to put an end to war right now, for example, in a few days, by announcing a fake victory, a fake total victory, we see that there won't be a very bright future for Trump and his administration, for his team. Which means that with this momentum, fully negative, full of criticism of the politicians, society, media, and so on, Trump will know immediately that it's a lost cause. And lost cause means lost election, a total lost election in November 2026, which means the loss of Congress, the loss of Senate, the loss of House, and the possibility for impeaching him. And by means of impeachment, of course, it's a matter of removing its immunity and getting him to the trial and put him most probably in prison, and having also several billions of dollars that he stole in his status of president, for his family, for his organization. All of the money must be refunded. So a huge catastrophic future for Donald Trump himself, his family, his empire, and his company, his mafia, all the Zionists that brought him to the White House and made him president of the United States. Can you imagine that such a person that we know in the person, in the individual of Donald Trump, accepts such a gloomy, darky, murky, dark future? Can you imagine that? I can't. That's why I am very doubtful, skeptical regarding this first scenario, that under pressure of the circumstances, Trump accepts the defeat on behalf of total victory. We got effectively today an interview of Trump with Israeli newspaper Times of Israel, and as you can see, he's telling us this. I think Trump is confirming he and Netanyahu decide together when this war ends. Quote, I think it's mutual a little bit. We have been talking. I will make a decision at the right time, but everything is going to be taken into account. So I translate it in plain English. When the boss decide about putting an end to this war, I will announce it. As the employee, as the puppet, as the slave of Zionists, I will announce it. But the boss must confirm that. This is the reality. So he is telling the boss that the situation is really bad and we cannot really handle this, by and large, because nothing is successful in their famous war after 10 days. So they had to do something as opposed to rhetoric. The rhetoric is, we crashed everything, we destroyed everything, we obliterated everything. But the reality is there. The reality is that every hours Iran is sending a wave of missiles and drones toward every part, every city in Israel. Can you imagine that the time of alert, the time of warning, shrunk from 30 minutes in the first day of war to just 1 minute, which means that several major components of the defense system of the United States have been crushed, has been completely destroyed. And right now, when the Iranians send the missiles toward Israel, and the only time that remains so that they can warn the population with the sirens and alerts and everything is just 1 minute. And 1 minute is not enough. That's why the casualties start to rising in Israel. More and more injured, more and more killed people because they cannot really have time to go to the shelter. So the situation is very bad for Israel as well. That's why Trump is really hoping that the boss will, give a green light in order to announce a ceasefire, an end of operation, a total victory, or something, and that. Because of the consequences of this scenario, which will be 2 years less for the second term of Trump's presidency, I don't see really that they will be eager to choose this option, to pick this option and doing that. Even though theoretically or by obligation, they have to do so, but in response to all these indicators, they are eager to do so, to announce the end of the operation. But on the other hand, when they think about what will come in the aftermath of this announcement, they start to doubt about that. So that's why I think this first option, which is to leave Iran, to become the superpower, and to accept that United States and Israel have been defeated, literally defeated by Iran, even though theoretically it's possible, but practically I think there would be a serious challenge for Trump, for the Zionists in Israel to accept it. That's why we can put aside for now, at least for the sake of our discussion, this first option, and let's see what would be the other options about which they can think of. The second, what about keep going with this war? What about continuing? But they know that as long as the war is going on remotely means just by sending, bombs, missiles, drones, but they cannot touch the Iranian forces. They cannot touch the material structure of the Iranian regime, even though they can destroy a part of this material structure, but they cannot make the total annihilation of this, and essentially because Iran is still capable to backlash, to respond to them, and the response is destructive. The Americans are losing forces, materials, and a lot in all their bases in the Persian Gulf Arab countries, and Israel is getting hit more and more strongly by Iranians, because right now Iranians are able to operate almost everywhere in Israel. I don't say without any impediment, but with the much more free hands than in the day 1, 2, 3, and so on. So they cannot really defeat the Iranian regime remotely. So what would be another option if they want to keep going with war, if they want to continue really this war? Because as long as the war continues, they can avoid all the negative, destructive consequences of war inside the United States, here for the Trump administration, inside Israel for the criminal Netanyahu, right? So the solution is very simple, militarily speaking. It's sending ground troops, sending the American forces within Iran in order to operate there and get to the regime forces, to the regime leaders physically. Something like the fake operation that they did in Venezuela, okay? Getting everyone, arrested, killed, like Bin Laden, like anyone else. But they fall short of objectivity if they want to do it. They will have serious problem to meet all the objectives that they can fix on the paper, right? But on the ground, they will meet such a resistance by the Iranian forces that is unimaginable. Let me give you some ideas about that. Once the American forces are there, they must be ready to face a huge quantity of Iranian military. We are talking about something like 600,000 active military right now in Iran. Something like 450,000 people of the conventional army and 150,000 of IRGC forces. And we are not talking about the possibility of mobilization of the militia, of the popular forces, of Basij, for example, where it's a matter, theoretically at least, is a matter of something like 1 million people. Right? We shouldn't forget that during the Iraq-Iran war, the Basij was known as the army of 20 million Iranians. 20 million. We are talking about the period of time the population of Iran was something between 36 to 40 million people. So right now, of course, with Iranian nationalism activated, if there is really the boots on the ground over there, we must be waiting for a huge number of military and paramilitary forces waiting for the American soldiers. You saw this famous interview of Mr. Arakchi, foreign minister of the Iranian government, talking about this specific topic with a very short and representative, emblematic answer. It was just, we are waiting for. That's all. Iranians are really, really waiting for the American soldiers, the American boots on the ground. We can extrapolate what is going on right now in Lebanon. You know, in Lebanon, as long as Israel was waging a remote war, it was killing, everyone. People, children, Hezbollah, militia, and so on. But as soon as they started with this last wave of operation to be underground, to operate within Lebanon, they got crushed completely. And right now there are casualties. There are many Israeli soldiers injured. Why? Because the American army, the Israeli armies, these are the armies of show-off. These are the army of hardware. We don't have any army in the United States or in Israel that we can call fighter army. They are not able to fight face to face. Hezbollah knew that. That's why it brought Israelis, to the kind of war, to the style of war in which they excel, right? They are superior to the best units of the Israeli armies. That will be the same thing in Iran for the American forces. The forces that are equipped, of course, well trained, with a huge superiority of hardware, but you will see that everything will change once they find themselves in front of the people who are there for showing effectively that this is their territory, this is their patrie, and they will defend it with everything possible, with every method imaginable. So 600,000 active military, between 1 to 2 million paramilitary forces, and we are talking about a geography that is several times worse than what American army experienced as a nightmare in Afghanistan, right? In Afghanistan, it was exactly the same. The Taliban and the Afghan didn't have really any superiority for the hardware, for the weaponries, right? It was incomparable. But at the end of the day, after 20 years of fight, the Americans gave back the power to Taliban. Why? Because they were not able to fight them. They were not able to defeat them. That would be the same thing for the Iranian army. So that's why this second option, which is to sending ground troops, is again, like the first one, theoretically possible, right? But practically, that would be almost impossible. Not only for what is waiting for the American soldiers inside Iran, but because of all the impact of almost daily defeat, daily casualties, killed and injured Americans that will come back to the United States. And society here, a society that is aware about the fact that the Americans are going there to be killed for Israelis, for Israel. Right now, Trump signed an executive order according to which the army can draft the American young people, boys and girls, in the army. But it means that you, the American youth, you should be ready to go there and to be sacrificed completely for the benefit of Israel, right? You will be killed for the Zionists, and the Americans know that. We saw the video of the young Marine in one of the gathering of the Congress, crying that we don't want to be killed for Israel. We don't want to die for Israel, right? So there is this collective consciousness among Americans, among the young Americans, among the army soldiers, that why we have to go and die for Israel, because our president did the very bad things, very nasty things 30 years ago, and Mossad agents, Jeffrey Epstein, filmed him, and now, because there are the videos and everything of him, we have to go and get killed because of these videos, because of the nasty things that Trump did. So that's why I think in this second scenario, there would be a huge frustration of society, a huge disappointment of Americans regarding Trump administration. And that's why I predict that if Trump decide to send ground troops in Iran, there would be a kind of uprising here. I'm talking about kind of national or nationalist uprising by the Americans, and that would be catastrophic because the Israeli president of the United States, Stephen Miller, prepared ICE, an army of I don't know how many people with $70 billion budget in order to be involved in this uprising, to kill the people, to crush the people, to suppress the people, to repress the American protesters, and they are preparing the prisons for something between 5 to 10 million Americans here. So we are talking about, how is it called? Oh, civil war. Civil war, yes. The second option for this military war against Iran will bring about, for sure, a civil war. I am pretty sure that such a decision will lead to a real nationalist uprising, social uprising in the United States, translated at the end of the day into a civil war. All right. You see how each option has huge cost for Trump administration, for the Zionists, for Netanyahu, for everyone. So that's why, even though these options exist theoretically, but in practice, it's not easy to implement them. That's why the question comes up to ask, what would be another option? What would be another alternative? The first one, leaving Iran, will bring about the impeachment of President Trump and the end of the mafious empire of Zionists that brought him to the White House. That would be catastrophic. Catastrophic for all these criminals and pedophiles that right now are in power, right? The second one will bring about the collapse of the American society and most probably economy, uprising, clashes, chaos, and finally civil war. So what would be a third option? The third option is the one that right now many analysts, many let's say knowledgeable people are talking about. For example, if you see this post of Colonel Douglas MacGregor, he is talking about this. He is talking about we are in a run-up to World War III. Because the third option is so dramatic, is so grave, that really can bring about the Third World War. We are talking about what? You know, at a given moment, Trump and Netanyahu, the Zionists, can make it believe that as long as something called Iran, not Iranian regime, we are talking about the country, we are talking about the nation state. As long as a country called Iran exists, we cannot really have any viable option to to let it alone, right? Without really making a serious decision about its existence. So that's why this very basic, inhuman, unethical argument lead to very simple outcome. Iran must not exist. Iran must not have any existence. Right? That's the idea. That's the idea of the Zionists from the beginning. So what we have to do, we have to obliterate the existence of the Iranian regime. And as we have already tried once in the War of 12 Days, another time right now with thousands and thousands of bombs, thrown over there, because they are talking about 2,000, 3,000 points that had been struck. So after several thousand strikes, we don't get the result. The Iranians are firing back, and they are damaging seriously anything that the United States had established in the region for 50 years with a cost of more than 1 trillion. And the Israeli society is on the brink of implosion, right? militarily, socially, economically, politically. So they have to do something in the short term, in the immediate. They cannot let Iran continue in this way, resisting, showing kind of resilience, right? And continuing to harm them, to hit them, to strike them. It's impossible. Under no circumstances can the United States and Israel let Iran continue that. Absolutely not. So what to do? They have to hinder, the firepower of Iran. They have to thwart that. Somehow they have to create an obstacle to this. So conventionally and remotely they cannot do that. If they want to send the ground troops, that would be extremely costly. So what's the solution? With a conventional remote war, they cannot. They cannot, on the other hand, send the boots on the ground. So what to do? Nobody sees any other option but bombing with the nuclear weapon Iran. And this is what Israel planned from the beginning, in order to bring, the United States to this point, to this specific point that we are talking about. The point in which the United States believes in the rightness and the feasibility of applying this last final solution, bombing Iran with nuclear weapons. Is it possible to do so? Again, for the sake of discussion, let's say yes, they can nuke bomb Iran and obliterate, let's say, for example, the capital, Tehran, with something between 9 to 12 million people, the center and around the suburban areas, 10, 12 million with just a few bombs, nuclear bombs. And then other big cities, same thing. After that, in the aftermath of nuke bombing Iran, there won't be anything that we can call Iran. There would be several dozens of millions of dead and a completely environmentally, physically, materially wiped out country. This is what Israel desires for decades now. But there is a little hic in that. There is a little issue with this scenario. As soon as you use this nuclear bomb in Iran, you open a new chapter in the book of world history, because they have this usage only and only in the whole human history, only and only twice, in a very specific case of Japan, in the frame of the World War II. And beyond that, despite the fact that there are many countries, China, Russia, North Korea, India, Pakistan, United States, Israel, they have had lots of thousands and thousands of nuclear heads. But we didn't have any usage of this. We didn't have any nuclear explosion as a tool of, bringing down the enemy. We didn't have that. We had a lot of threat, challenges, risk, but practically using it, no. For the first time, Israel wants to do so. By doing so, we enter immediately in a new chapter, in a new era, the era of nuclear war. As easy as that. I have to name it, right? Nuclear war means other countries would find immediately the justification of using the nuclear warheads against Israel and the United States. Because as long as you have this tool but you don't use it, you are respecting the existential being, the existential entity of the other nations. But when you use it, it means that you are able, you would be able to use it for any other nations. This is what Israel is thinking about. Nuke bombing Iran, then Pakistan, Turkey, the whole region, and why not the whole world? Don't forget that Israel has something like 400 to 500 nuclear warheads. This is enough to destroy almost the whole planet. You know, the whole planet could be destroyed with 500 nuclear heads, not only by the explosion but also by the subsequent effects. As long as these nuclear heads are kept and not used, we are in a specific historical logic of relationships, between the different powers and countries. We are talking about 200 countries in the world. But as soon as you use just one of them against another country, then we changed completely what it's called historicity, the specific logic that rounds the human history. We enter in a new history of humanity. And this specific era of the history has for this particularity that those who have this power can allow themselves to use it against each other. So that's why we heard about the North Korea, that Israel is a kind of cancer, right, for the humanity and must be wiped out. So the North Korea is just waiting for an excuse to use 1-2 of its nuclear missiles in order to completely wipe out Israel. Pakistan, same way, maybe China, maybe Russia. And with the reaction of the United States and other European nuclear power, France and United Kingdom and Israel itself, we are in the scenario of nuclear third world war, which will put an end to any kind, any form, any type, any shape of life on Earth for several million to several billion years. This is what's going to happen if Israel, because this miscalculation in this war and the refuse of, the denial of the error, the mistake, is pushing effectively the United States toward this. Israel, is in pursuit of its dirty objective, which is to dominate Middle East and by means of that dominate the world in order to create something that can be called the supremacist Jewish global government. This is what the Zionists want, right? But in order to do so, what is at stake, is just the future of humanity. The future of life, in general, by and large, is in the balance. And this is what Israel is doing. And only Israel is doing. That's why The analyst Scott Reeder is talking about the cancerous parasite about Israel. This is a cancer for the body of humanity, and the cancer can kill only, can damage. And that's why Scott Reeder is suggesting that we have to take care of that in order to thwart the starting of the atomic Third World War. We have to take care of Israel. If we have to neutralize it. But as it's unimaginable, Scott Reeder is suggesting otherwise we have to wipe it out from the human history. And we know that the Israelis are waiting for that with the Samson plan to use all the nuclear warhead that they have. In case of the obliteration of Israel, they want to obliterate, to vanish completely life from the planet. I am so sorry, guys, to be so cynical, to so pessimist regarding the future of humanity, but it's not an attitude or psychological feature. It's just because of realism, and the realism is dictating us that we are heading toward this situation where what is in the balance is the being or not being, to be or not to be, of the whole humanity, by and large. So that's why we must see how the things are going to evolve in order to have an idea about which of these three scenarios will be the case. Will the United States, Israel, leave Iran and accept a fake victory in order to just save their economy, society, and everything? That's the first option, with a very low probability. The second is to send ground troops, which is possible, which is probable, but doomed to fail. I am pretty sure that such a thing will fail to meet any military or political objective for sure. That would be more catastrophic than the first one. And finally, the worst case scenario we have is to have nuke bomb Iran and trigger effectively an international conflict that cannot be otherwise than nuclear, that can be but nuclear, atomic, right? And international atomic conflict means the atomic World War III, with, in the perspective, the end of any form of life on the planet. Let's hope otherwise, but let's remain also objective and realistic so that we don't miss anything. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please share your points of view on what you hear here with regard to all the topics in the comments. And also I ask you to share these videos with other people so that we can have more and more audience and more point of view. Share the ideas if you think that they are relevant so that we can have a brainstorming in order to find a solution. And let's keep the hope for the best case scenario. Let's keep the hope. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.